go beyond the end of the legislative session. Does that change things?
No, it makes it worse. Look, who runs a business with this on? It pops into his head and he does this. I thought yesterday, oh, there's no way I'm pausing it. This is about making them pay. No, it's not. It's about having people come and grovel to the president thinking he's going to get a deal, thinking we're going to, that he's going to move all manufacturing back here. I don't know with the 3% unemployment how he thinks he's going to do that and how those wages that were paid for those jobs are going to sustain Americans. We should be focusing on the next generation of innovation, whether it's clean energy, clean technology, biotech, ag tech. That's what we're doing in Minnesota. Pardon me?
Your funding dashboard that went live today.
Yes, and I want to thank the folks at MMB. We'll send you over, if it gets out there, if you guys get it in your stories for Minnesotans. There's a dashboard that shows where all the federal funds come from. And as in real time, when we hear whether they cut them, pull grants, and just so people know how to run a business or what's happening, we have grants that were given to us, and many of our agencies, like Health, run on that. And what happened last week was they had a grant that was extended out for 2 more years, and we budget based on that, and we plan based on that, we hire based on that. And one day on March 25th, they said it's done, and on March 26th, our people were gone. We want to make sure Minnesotans have a little bit of lead time to see what's happening. They'll be able to see a lot of that in real time, what happens.
So there's an ethics review right now in the Senate President, Bobby Joe Champion. Do you believe he had a conflict of interest with the budget?
Well, they'll find that out, but I think it's a point in here that I am just going to state. I believe you need the strongest ethics requirements. I believe the inability of the legislature to have to adhere to data practices stops all of you from being able to find some of the things that are necessary to make sure there's accountability. I would ask the Senate and the House, the legislature here in Minnesota, I think this incident would be a good, they'll find out. I'm certainly not passing judgment, but I think this would be a good time to subject themselves to the same requirements that every other agency, myself included, is, and that is a piece of the press's major responsibility. You will all be out there, you'll be asking for those. They need to have data practices and the reforms we've asked for.
Let's do one more legislatively named grants, so direct appropriations for grants. That's at the center of this controversy with Senator Champion.
I'm not comfortable with naming the grants, I have to be honest with you. I know it's something we've done here. We've worked on them on budgets. I think this, and again, I'm not passing judgment on Senator Champion. He needs to have his due process and get out there. I think even the ability to name something, and if you have any connection whatsoever, just the optics of impropriety is very clear, and I think you want these grants, if you want to have competitive grants, the way those should be done. If they're competitive grants in health, the health department should carry them out, not the legislators who don't have the expertise.
Governor, we got to get to the...
We expect to come up in the budget is, budget fight is medical assistance coverage for undocumented immigrants, and whether to roll that back. Republicans have wanted to roll that back. Where do you stand on that? I know you signed it last time.
I'm not going to debate with myself at this point in time. I know they're bringing it up. The issue around this is that we know when folks get preventative medical help, it saves us money in the long run. I'm deeply concerned, especially on things like public health with measles. If folks aren't able to get their vaccinations, get basic care, that's why we put these things in. I was especially focused on children. The legislature expanded a little bit. We'll talk about it, but in the big budget fight we have and the cost savings, that's not what's costing us the money. So,
what did you hear in Ohio last week or this week, and will you travel next week when the legislature's off?
Yeah, what I heard in Ohio is fascinating, just by the way. In Youngstown, 3,000 people showed up. Last night in Lorain, they planned for 300. They filled an auditorium of 1,200, and they had an overflow in the gym of 1,200. They weren't there to see me. They were there to join together, and I asked last night how many of them had ever been to one of these events or political events. 75% hadn't been. And the issue is, and many of you were witness to this, during the Tea Party debates, I did town halls where I stood in front of 3,000 angry people and answered questions for over 3 hours. And what these folks are saying is we want to be heard. We want to know about Social Security. We want to know especially about title funding in education. We're deeply concerned with the tariffs at that time in Ohio. And in all honesty, there was some really good stuff. What I was out there to hear, they said both parties have promised Ohio. I stood in front of that Lordstown plant that had 4,500 auto workers that was idle. Donald Trump told them, I'll bring back the jobs, don't sell your house. He did. All of them lost their jobs. But in all fairness, that started back with President Clinton and continued on. So it was good for me as these folks were talking about what does modern manufacturing look like. They're not interested in getting a t-shirt factory in Ohio, but it was good. They want to know. They're frustrated. You saw it across the country. People showing up, peacefully protesting. There's no rhyme or reason. The middle class is being hurt. Prices are going up. Gas prices are going up, and there seems to be when the president says, I don't really care if a car price goes up, that has a ripple effect all the way to the miners on the iron range that are laid off.
More travel, though? Tom's question was more travel.
I'm on the weekends coming back. I think it's out there. I have been invited, and I think I'm going to be in Toronto with Premier Ford and Canoe to talk about this. And I think the timing now is, especially if these things are in pause, what we can do to strengthen some of that trade. That's an invitation I think I'm going to take. But at this time, no other town halls or anything.
Is
planned.
that next week with Toronto?
I believe so. I believe so. I don't have the exact date, but I believe it's next week.
For Governor.
All right, and thank you all.
Thank you, Governor.